And we'll immediately swap over to the Amulet of Regeneration. That's huge. And hopefully after all those shenanigans, we're in a pretty beautiful spot. We'll probably clear down to D12 or so, slightly dependent on how everything goes. I know that's oftentimes our go-to. Oh, there's gosh darn Eden. You know what? Sometimes you just say nay, and that's okay. Get the heck out of Dodge before we run into any situations that quickly become untenable. And fortunately, a Kobold Pack is the perfect friend group for us to run into here. No problems dealing with them. And we probably should just get the heck out of here, potentially. 5 potions are lig. I was hoping for curing there, but still can't be too mad about that. If we need some emergency armor class, what does that bring us up to right now? AC up to 30, so that's some pretty decent like anti-Hydra tech, potentially. Or, of course, any early negative energy enemies, but mostly, you know, we're not running into any Tormentors on Layer 1. At least usually not. Let's cross our fingers, unless the game is feeling especially cruel today. But, okie dokie. One thing I should do before we get too much further. Interesting. Do the trees attack anything nearby? No, okay, just enemies of the creature who awoke it. That's nice. I was worried because they didn't have the green outline that we were in for a spot of trouble. Interesting. So it almost locks enemies in with us. Well, I actually wanted to see what you did. My Dryad friend, minor healing, and you also awaken Forest. Interesting. You're fire vulnerable, so definitely a little bit at odds in that regard, but nothing wrong with that. Oh, and the trees remain. Interesting. You know, now that I take a better look, it did replace walls with trees. Can Summon Forest do the job of digging? So now if I just light the forest on fire, I'm good to go, right? Let me just check my phone. Nothing too critical there. Interesting. I don't want to attack the trees because of our Dryad friend. Oh, and they are just temporary. Can I burn them down while they're there? Maybe they're magical trees, so they're protected from it. Regardless, it's a pretty minimal advantage that would take a decent amount of finagling, so I'm not too concerned about getting that going anytime in the immediate future. But more to the point in regards to that immediate future, let's head back up to Lair here. And again, I always talk a pretty big game about how things will go once we get to this stage, but generally on a conjuration start, we can feel pretty dang comfortable. Sir, please don't step into that. Thank you, I appreciate it. Not every day that the monsters are so polite as this, so thank you kindly. But this is part of where my confidence comes from. Even if we start to get surrounded, can endlessly spam I am being. As long as we're killing enemies as we do so, Makhleb will replenish a lot of the resources that it costs. So it ends up being an infinite source of both damage and protection. So that's always a lovely wombo combo to see all happening at the same time. And let us lay a trail of mines once again here. Fantastic. Cataplebis, if you could walk up into that or not, that's cool too. Of course, everything is to your own discretion. I don't want to force you against your will or anything like that, but it would be nice if you let yourself get exploded, my good friend. If you could be so kind. As holy crap, we hit our caps here as well. Some Forest is really underrated. Your second favorite outside of Cactus Giant? Oh, interesting. I do really like Cactus Giant. It's not very often that we play summoners, but the couple that we've attempted with, I've definitely always been happy to see that spell show up. So maybe I need to try the Summon Forest more. I'm a bit confused because it says it requires an open area, but it turns walls into trees. So is it just to nerf it so you can't use it in a corridor and immediately have 3 allies on each side wailing away at your enemies? That at least would make a certain amount of sense. But let's start trying some invo now. I believe we have Summon Lesser Servant. We do indeed. So we can start thinking about having that online, just so we have some bodies to throw at the inevitable issues that we'll find ourselves facing here. There we go. Cattle Pleb is down. Fantastic. And Blink Frog, if you could just chill out, my friend. That would be lovely. Let's take another peek as well. Any new spells came in? I mean, I completely butchered that sentence, but let's be distracted from that lack of vocal ability to instead being pretty happy about BVC. I do believe it got slightly nerfed in this latest patch. I think mostly its damage was just lowered, but definitely still will try it out here. See how it goes. So let us rearrange that onto another key. Let our prism explode, and then hopefully we have a relatively safe encounter that we can try it out in. Okay, it's still strong enough for me at the end of the day. Love to see it. Friends, if you could all come in, I'd actually prefer not to use Prism here because we've been shafted and we don't know what our surroundings look like. Prism is just slightly too loud, and we very oftentimes find ourselves getting wildly surrounded once we start blasting, so try to be a little more cautious and cognizant of that fact. Last time you tried, you're pretty sure you could still cast in an enclosed area? Interesting. Yeah, I was just going off the spell description there, so I'd definitely be happy if that is indeed the case. Hello, my Naga friends. Come one, come all. Reach out and grab ya. Fantastic. Love to see it. But as soon as we find ourselves a slightly safer space to recover here, let's try to blast you one more time. Please and thank you. There we go. But yeah, specifically I'm looking for an upstairs. Oh, mountain boots. No, that'd be so helpful. In the greatest of ironies, the character that it would most help out with that cold resistance, unable to wear it. It's like rain on your wedding day, you know? Free ride when it's already late. And sing along if you know the words. Berserk Rage, can definitely just leave that. A stairwell, please. My kingdom for a stairwell. Yikes. Frostrake, definitely a problem child. There we go. Fortunately, they're taken care of in the ensuing blast there. We've cleared out enough of the floor that I've forsaken my ideals of not using Prism, and instead we're just throwing everything in the kitchen sink at our friends that show up here. There we go. Okay, we have a stairwell. So now I need, where's the closest corridor? I mean, this isn't too bad. If I'm here, you need more open space to fit a forest. Interesting. What about here? So is it number of walls surrounding me, potentially? One wall? Works fine. Let's wait that out. 2 walls. I'm guessing this is going to work, though. It might actually be total space. This is the one, though, that I guess made me suspicious. So we have lots of open space near us. So potentially 3 is the limit. Looks to be the case. Again, very relatively minor testing here. We'll have to potentially get something a bit more robust as we continue onwards, but something to keep in mind at least. And a wand of polymorph. I mean, I don't really want this artifact amulet, so why the heck not? And I've already forgotten that I was shafted, so we actually should immediately head up this stairwell and start exploring the floor that we were meant to reside on for the moment. Oh me oh my, I have a bunch of garbage kicking around in the inventory. In fact, let's just do a bit more of a full purge here. Let's Marie Kondo this backpack, shall we? I should keep poison darts for now. Could be useful against a boulder beetle. Spectral quarterstaff. Yeah, that could probably go. And even the amulet of the acrobat. Now that we have regeneration, I don't foresee us making too many amulet changes unless something surprising comes our way, and surprising in the most positive way, which I would love to see. Don't get me wrong. But perfect, just spam the ever-living crap out of IMB. Again, anytime I play a Djinni, I'm so spoiled, and when I go back to a regular caster, and I'm shocked that I can't IMB 20 times in a row, it just doesn't feel right anymore. It's a serious problem. But alrighty, come one, come all, fantastic. And still a wee bit of the floor left to go here. Again, nothing too untoward coming our way, so it's a nice breath of fresh air while we relax from our end encounter. Basically, anytime we run into a rhyme Drake, all of these are panic-inducing events to say the least. And actually, Bog Body I should have been careful of as well, seeing as how they do kind of reside in the same category of, oh gosh, let's be careful. I thought we had access to Curar, but maybe I left it behind, or I'm just mixing up my runs here. Regardless, rinse, repeat. Oof. That is a hard hit, my roly-poly friend. I probably should just leave. If you roll up again, I'm just likely dead on the spot, if I had to guess. Lightning rod? There we go. Oh, already find ourselves in a spot of trouble. Great work, me. Vile clutch. I do need to remember that we now have access to that. So let's not be too silly about things. Hey, Torinski. I don't believe Vile clutch will be useful against our electrical friends here, but we can just pretty safely back up. And if things come to a head, we had just one step. Or we're just one step away from safety, rather, so that's fantastic. And okay, back into the saddle. And let's take everything we've learned, compile that all into a mental note, and hopefully make it through the rest of this lair a bit more intelligently, or at least feeling a bit more safe about the matter. Definitely pop another prism down, and it just blows everything to smithereens. I will say that Fulminant Prism, while it does sometimes give a bit of a headache to properly set up, and very rarely you find yourself taking a bit of friendly fire, as the case may be, but it truly is up there in terms of satisfying spells. There are very few things in this game that give me the same kind of gut feeling as reflecting an enemy's orb of destruction back at them. And that's probably one of them, is when your prism explodes and just wipes out an entire horde of enemies in one go. The mana efficiency just gets my goat. gets my goat, floats my boat, and anything else. Or I guess everything else that rhymes, because everything that rhymes is true, of course. And fantastic. Ring of protection from fire. I probably should just drop on the floor. Chances are we'll never be using that son of a gun, seeing as how we have just silly levels of fire resistance going for us at the moment, but never really know. So we'll pay heed to the due diligence there. And potion heal wounds. Oh my gosh, we're constantly cleaning out. Apparently I did not do a good enough job cleaning out in the first place. So let's go through again. Ask ourselves what sparks joy here. You're on the watch list, protection from fire. I don't think I actually want you. But we'll hold off for the moment here, just in case we end up wanting, for whatever reason, to make a switch into that department. I feel like that's a bad habit I have for sure, is that I'll constantly make that kind of style of argument to myself, where even though I can't think of an example, I'm sure there are examples. And so my hoarding tendencies live on, because that's probably the most common time and place I find myself going down that line of thinking. Sure, I cannot think of any good examples as to why I need this very specifically shaped piece of wood, but I'm sure there's something out there. And so that, of course, justifies me filling my entire room and closet with needless amounts of garbage. Okie dokie. See invisible ring. Not really useful. But that's fine. Let's continue onwards and we'll try to at least finish this floor. Layer, potentially we'll even dip down to layer 5. Oh my gosh, we get another mark trap? Twice the Marcus? Oh hi Mark, oh hi Mark. And there we go. Friends finally catch up to us. Fortunately, nothing we can't handle here. And in fact, elephant herds I feel like are pretty much the ideal scenario for us here, because they're a ripe amount of experience and we pretty much go through no amount of danger to take care of them. And so that's actually something that it would be really nice if our final floor area, there we go, Ring of Protection from Fire, can swap out for a Staff of Cold, because that will give us the much needed cold resistance when push comes to shove. And that immediately distracted me from all ongoing thoughts. I think I was mid-sentence, but those trains have been called to a halt to make room for the cold resistance, baby. But yes, Death Yaks, also appropriate. There we go. We eventually got there. Because we were talking about what we want to see on layer 5, and like Dire Elephants, Death Yak packs, all of these are definitely something that I feel relatively comfortable taking care of, at least as comfortable as any character can after the mistakes that have been made this evening. But regardless, cannot exactly complain about things. So we'll blast you, my friend, once more. Fantastic. I cannot reach you. Is there a blind spot though? Oh. Hey there, my sharky boy. Did not see you there. Oh crap, that Fulmin Prism is gonna hit me. Well, sometimes you gotta take one for the team, I guess. This was, to be clear, not one of those times, and yet here we are, taking one for the team. Fantastic. Okay, if I can sneak up here, there we go. Potentially that gets us, that's the ticket. She's the ever-living crap out of our oak globe plant buddy there. Fantastic. Statues and plants are all something I'm very comfortable handling on this character. Dream Sheep I should probably be slightly more scared of. Of course, they're no real threat on their own, but if they'd put us to sleep while we had our Hydropal next door, Might have very quickly been singing a different tune. Fortunately, does not end up being the case, and so never learned from the issue, I guess, seeing as how it wasn't a problem, so how could it ever be in the future? That is obviously how good science works, baby. There we go. Cataplasmus, no problem, and fantastic. Bunch of yaks. It's a little too crammed, so they are going to be forced next to us without us being able to get that safety gap, but that's totally fine as we just skyrocket up in experience as well. Beautiful. And where do we wish to train? I wish I could check in on some of the other things. I want to see where our god abilities are sitting in terms of failure rate, as well as spells at the highest level that we've been granted so far. I guess a safe bet is to just turn on fighting, and that's great. And then we can check in as we get Starburst. Very nice. And so for Greater Servant, we could use a little bit more invocation training for sure. And then what was the other front that we were wondering about there? Spells. So Starburst still staying at 1%, so actually plenty solid in that department for the time being. And we can just finish off you. Beautiful. Again, just the perfect example of why we love the Yak Pack so much here. Always fantastic to deal with. In terms of inventory management, once again, I guess we can start dropping some things. Enchant weapon. Did we already drop our brand weapon somewhere? Scrolls of noise, vulnerability. That's something I always tell myself I'm going to find some niche case use for. Again, maybe that plays into my general train of thoughts for my hoarding as well. Like, I can't think of a use case for scroll of vulnerability, but I know it might make the difference. And so, how could I possibly get rid of it? But there we go, Catoplevis. No real issues.